And then there was a problem, big problem. This is the time now, the Nyayo era is at its. Remember, we did not go to university because there was a coup.
There's a coup.
You know, by the time there was a coup, there was disaffection. So after the coup now, there was tyranny. Tyranny is building. And there is no, the hospitals have no medicine.
Wow.
So you are in charge of a district, but there is no medicine.
And there's nothing.
I remember sitting in my office in Meru and looking at the store, there is nothing. The health centers are calling me. And the only answer I can give them is that hiyo hakuna, hiyo hakuna, hiyo hakuna. I asked myself, did I go to study all these pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical chemistry and pharmacology only to say hakuna? Hakuna. I felt like I was going to go mad. And so I decided to leave government.
Hi guys, and happy new year 2025. After a very, very long break, Beyond the Pulpit is back. Your hosts have not changed. My name is still Tracy. And 2024, 2025. Milele na milele. Karibuni sana. And I must say, I had missed filming Beyond the Pulpit. I had missed being on set. I was on set. Mtaona kuna maendeleo kidogo, but I had missed filming Beyond the Pulpit. I had missed listening to people's stories. I know our audience doesn't know this, but we've not filmed in a month. But we are here. We are back. My co-host has decided to join me because the last 2 weeks, Larry had decided to leave me alone. Happy New Year, Larry.
Happy New Year.
Nikikwambia Happy New Year ni sijakuona siju kutoka lini, so
by the way,
karibu sana set.
Asante sana.
Karibu. You've been missed.
Naona maendeleo.
Kuna maendeleo nyingi. Usitupotee. How are you?
I'm good.
Hopeful for the new year?
Very grateful, hopeful. Yeah.
Good.
Excited. Ni mwaka wa ndio ya maendeleo sasa.
Ama niseme hivyo. Tulimaliza kuforce. This year ni mwaka wa maendeleo.
Bas.
Yeah, Mungu mbele, hizo zingine zitakuja. Ndio?
Affirmative.
Yeah, so let's start with our proud sponsors. Our proud sponsors of today, Hodari have made us this beautiful set. So hit them up. They'll make you something really nice. Okay? Do not forget to hit them up. They're so comfortable. Ama si comfortable.
Ni comfortable.
Ni quality mzuri.
Nimeuliza director Hodari bei. Ameniambia.
But ako sawa, wewe usi.
Ni quality. You get what you pay for.
You get your money's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah? Good. So hit them up. Ensure that they're making your things ni quality. Hizi vitu ni mzito, so you will pass them to your children's children. Yeah. So let's get started on today's episode. We have a very interesting guest. Due to public demand, nawaambia tulikuwa tuminterview last year. Lakini here we are now. Everyone has been asking. And when I mean everyone, it is literally mother and the rest of the community that we worship with. Everyone has been asking, kwani amleti doctor. Ako hapa, ako na sisi. Let us get to know Dr. Mwangi. Okay, Dr. That's how we call you outside here. Okay, personally, let me speak for myself. It is Dr. It is Dr. Moses Mwangi. Karibu sana to Beyond the Pulpit. It is an honor, major honor to have you here. Yeah, so karibu sana. You can go ahead and introduce yourself to our guest. Our audience, sorry.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very happy to be invited and to be between two Gen Zs. Very happy indeed. Yeah. Very happy. And you've done an extremely good job.
Thank you.
Yes, I've been following, and this is really, really innovative. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done. So my name is Dr. Moses Dongo Mwangi. Moses Dongo Mwangi. So I was born and raised in a rural village called Kaharo in Geda location, Murang'a South Sub-County, Murang'a County, Kenya.
Nice.
So I am Kenyan. That's where I was raised. I went to school there. I didn't go to nursery school.
You didn't?
I did not go to nursery school.
Why?
Because there were nursery schools.
Okay.
But by the time now my parents decided we needed to go to school. Those days people didn't go to school as the normal thing. Because I went to Standard 1 in 1969. That's when I went to Standard 1. Now I was already of age to be in primary. So I started school in Standard 1.
Oh, okay.
And many of my colleagues had been to nursery. So you can imagine, I didn't know how to count anything. So that's where I started in Kaharo Primary. And I was there for 7 years. Those days you did your primary level at Standard 7. It was called CPE, Certificate of Primary Education. And the Lord was very gracious. By the way, in Standard 1, my term 1, we were 108 of us.
The class?
The class.
Okay.
108.
Hey, that's a huge number.
Yes. I mean the 3 classes.
Oh,
The
okay.
3 classes.
Oh, okay.
But Standard 1.
Yeah.
And in term 1, I was number 98.
Nilikuwa na expect atasema za juju.
No, me actually juu wako amesoma nursery, so
had not
expected.
I thought that
98
angetushtua.
umeshinda watu 10. You've tried.
You mean you are not shocked?
Considering you did not have foundation in kindergarten.
But it was shocking, really, to me. Because, you know, those days they would call number 1, number 2, and you write up.
All of you. Where?
During closing. And your parents are there and everybody.
Waiting.
And waiting. So we wait for your name.
By the time I'm number 10, they're like, aye.
So, but by God's grace, by that time, I had moved to number 33.
Makofi.
So that's where I went. Then went all the way to Standard 7. Now, by the time I was doing CPE, by God's grace, I was top of my class. Although I had never become number 1, I was usually number 3, number 4. But during the exam, I was number 1.
Oh, wow.
Not only in my school, but also in my region.
Wow.
I was among the top 10 in Murang'a County. So I was privileged to be admitted to Alliance High School. So 1976, I was in Form 1. Again, you start with a shock. You come from rural bush.
Yeah.
And you meet with everybody from Nairobi, from major towns.
Yeah.
So again, first time you are down there, but by God's grace, we were able to do well in Form 4. Those days, again, the Form 4 exam was provided by the East African community at the time. So my Form 4 certificate is EAC, East African, EACE, East African Certificate of Education. We had the East African community at the time.
So exams zilikuwa among the
Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania. Yes, that's what it was.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wale walikuwa nafika Form 6.
So now we went to Form 6. Wale walikuwa nafika Form 6 before us. Now, they would get EAACE, East African Advanced Certificate of Education. But when I went to Form 5, that time, 1977, the East African community kind of broke.
Mm-hmm.
It broke down in 1977, but the examination went on until when I was in Form 5.
Mm.
So by Form 6 now, we did a Kenyan, Kenya Advanced Certificate of Education. So I was in Alliance for 6 years. I was in Alliance for 4 years. I passed well again. I was admitted into Form 5. I was there another 2 years. And by God's grace, those days there was only one university in Kenya. That is the Nairobi University or University of Nairobi.
Yeah.
It would admit 2,500 students per year. So to go to university was a big deal.
Yeah.
What we now have as Kenyatta University was a constituent college of the University of Nairobi offering education.
Okay.
So I was admitted in the School of Medicine at the University of Nairobi to study pharmacy. So I did a degree in pharmacy, which I studied and graduated or completed my education in 1987. And then 1 year of what we call internship out there before you could then be certified as a pharmacist who can practice. So I became a pharmacist, registered pharmacist in 1988. And I went into practice.
I'm curious.
Yes.
When you finished your Form 6, was the process very different from what you have right now, where you go choose a course? For as long as you've passed, you're being admitted into the University of Nairobi. And now for another question is, was pharmacy what you wanted to do? Or...
very good question. Now, when I was in A-level, from 5 and 6, I did maths, chemistry, biology. Those days when you went to A-level, you now, like the new CBC, which has come back, the new CBC, when you go to senior school, there will be some concentration,
Oh, in some subjects.
There will be three directions that students will go. Some will go to what we call STEM, science, technology, and mathematics. Others, humanities. Others, performing arts, like what you're doing here. So in those days, in A-level, you concentrated. So you either did science, and in science we had several combinations. You could do maths, physics, chemistry. Then you are shooting for engineering. If you did maths, physics, chemistry, it means you are shooting for engineering courses, whichever age they are, technical. If you did physics, chemistry, biology, then you are in between. You are saying, I can go either way.
Yeah.
For me, I did maths, chemistry, biology, so I was sure my direction was medicine. The thing when I was in Form 5, it was either going to be MPCHB, which is the medicine side, or pharmacy, or other medical sciences. And the University of Nairobi only admitted 120 students to do medicine.
Wow.
University of Nairobi School of Pharmacy only admitted 25 students to do pharmacy. So to do pharmacy was very, very competitive. You needed to get very high marks. Those days were called principles. You got
not grades.
They were called principles.
Okay.
You got 3 principles and maybe 1 subsidiary, because we all did something we call general paper, which was general knowledge, to add up to your 3 subjects, which you needed to pass to get the principles. And of course, the principles also ranged, there were A, B, C, D, all the way to E. Incidentally, an E was still a pass. It is when you got an F that you failed.
Oh.
So I wanted to do pharmacy, and I managed to get to the School of Pharmacy.
Okay.
Yes.
Before we get past that, let me ask, is for Form 5 and 6 a guarantee, or it depends on how you'll pass Form 4 then? Or you need to go to Form 4, ama unaweza simamia Form 4?
Well, like any education system, of course, many of our contemporaries did not go beyond standard 7. There weren't many high schools also, as there are today. So majority actually did not proceed to secondary school. And then when you went to Form 4, again, there were few high schools. So those who left Form 4, some of them will now go to become teachers, primary school teachers. You could go to a primary school training college. Others could go and train to be agricultural people. Those days we had colleges like what we have Egerton University today. Then it was an agricultural training college offering middle level training to become agricultural people. There were also people who would become animal handlers. We had colleges like Ahiti. So those who left Form 4 and they didn't go to A-level, they could go to those colleges. Now, when you went to A-level, if you didn't go to university, you could still now go to other higher institutions that offer diploma, like Kenya Polytechnic. The current technical university was Kenya Polytechnic. So many people who left A-level and did not go to university, they went there, did their diploma, and then they also did higher national diploma, like that. So there was that, those kind of trainings available. But by and large, still there were many people who dropped out in Form 4 and went straight to the job market. And if you did well, for example, some schools, we had some schools that offered very good technical training. For example, in accounts, I know a school in my near my place called Ishagaki Boys. Then at the time, it was one of the best places to go if you wanted to be an accountant. And many of them ended up working in the bank as bank clerks, straight from Form 4, and so forth. So there were many options for those who wanted to proceed. But the university now was the pinnacle that a few of us were privileged to go to.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Before we get into now when you started working, I'm curious to know at what point you got saved.
Yes. As I grew up, in my family, and in my family, we are not many children, because we were 6, and 6 of us, and my father had 2 wives. Never mind about that. And my mother was married by my father when my father was about 50. Because my elder mother had many children. Those days, children used to die a lot from preventable infectious diseases. There was no vaccination at the time. Diseases like measles, tetanus were very, very common. So I remember my stepmother, my older mother, had 9 children.
Okay.
But many of them died when they were young. So by the time now they were growing old, they had only 2 daughters. And those days, a boy was very important.
Yes. Yeah.
So now they are growing old. They are wondering now who is going to
give us a son.
So they looked for my mother. It was an agreement between my father and
the first
and my mother, stepmother. They needed a lady who had a boy. So they got my mother, who had been married, and her husband had died, And she had gone back to her parents with 2 children. My elder sister and my brother. So my mother was brought in, and by God's grace, I was born. And after me, there is one more girl. And then, so when I was born, that's my parents were not going to church. Nobody was going to church. But when I started standard 1, because the school was sponsored by the Anglican Church, and there was a lot of the Anglican Church as the sponsor. There was pastoral ministry in the school. We would start the parade with the singing and sharing of the word, and of course they would encourage us. So I started going to Sunday school. When I was in Standard 1, I was the first person in my family to go to church.
Wow.
And then as I started going to Sunday school, because I was very friendly, my teacher was very friendly to me. So I went to Sunday school. I grew up in Sunday school, and never looked back. So in the Anglican Church, in St. Peter's Church, Kaharo, it's actually my home church even up to today.
Oh, wow.
When I go home. And while I was there, of course, I joined the youth. And when I was in high school, of course, when you are from a village, like I am from a village in the rural Muranga, when you go to high school, not everybody went. When you go to Alliance, it's big deal. So when I would arrive back home in the village, I would keep my box at home and go to the school to greet my head teacher, and he would give me a chalk. And I would end up in the class to teach and inspire the people who are, when I was in Form 1 in Saturday 7, like that. And I did that all the time. So I became the chair of youth. Then it was called Kenya Anglican Youth Organization, KAYO. I was the chair. This time I'm not born again. But I'm a youth in the church.
Okay.
You know? But when I was in Form 5, before I was admitted to Form 5, there was a camp that was organized by KSCF, Kenya Secondary School Christian Fellowship. And this camp was in what is present day Park University. Then it was a college. That's where it was. So I went to that camp, and when I was, remember, I'm not born again, but I finished Form 4, waiting to go to Form 5. I went to that camp, and that is where I understood the gospel clearly, even though I was a church person who was a good boy. I was not involved in many things.
Yeah.
So I remember hearing the verse that says that my righteousness is like filthy rags before God. And the Holy Spirit convicted me that the righteousness I thought I had is like filthy rags before God. And then considering that when Jesus comes, the way he will welcome those who are his, by the fact that they believed in him and confessed him as Lord and Savior. But if you did not, you'll be counted together with prostitutes, people who do works of sorcery, robbers. I looked at myself and pitied myself. Here I am. I'm not all that.
Yeah.
But only because I did not confess Jesus. And I gave my life to Christ during that camp back in 1980. And when I went back home, I was able to stand before the church and declare my position as a born-again believer. And I've never looked back.
Wow.
So I served in that church. I was youth chair for 10 years. All the way until I completed my University of Education. I was still the chairman of the youth in my village, ACK Church. And up until the time I got married. I was a youth chair. And then now I had a daughter after I got married.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So at this point, you were living in school, or where were you living when you came to Nairobi for campus, for college?
You know, when we were admitted in the university, you were admitted and you were provided a room.
In the hostels.
Yes, in the hostels. Those days, the number of students admitted were equal to the number of hostels available. It took some time for people to think and know. You don't have to link the number of hostels to the number of students.
Yeah.
So I was living in the university hostels all the way from my 4 years in the university. Of course, I started at the main campus, and then second year I was in Chiromo. And then finally we were in medical school in Kenyatta. So that's where I was living. While I was in the university, I was in a Christian union, right from first year. When I was in second year, we had a Christian union section in Chiromo that brought together the medical students, those who were doing science. I was a member there. And I was the one keeping the guitars and the things we had bought in my room. Today I look at myself, I don't know how to play the guitar, and I tried.
And you were storing them in the house?
I was storing them. I was the keeper.
Yeah.
And also even in medical school. So I was a leader in the Christian Union in medical school. And then when we were there, we were worshiping at in main campus. We used to worship at St. Andrews. As Christian Union, we had a service for students at St. Andrews PCA Church. So we are very grateful to the PCA leadership. They provided a time when the students could go and we would have our service. When I was in medical school, I was going to what is current CITAM Valley Road. Then it was Nairobi Pentecostal Church Valley Road. That's where I worshipped. For the time I would be in college, and then when I would be at home, I would be going to the ACK Church.
Kaharo.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. That's amazing. That's an amazing salvation story. Up to Form 5. Umelead kutoka sijui lini unakopia Form 5, but we give glory to God. So we had put a pin on. Now you've completed campus. You've finished your 4 years in the University of Nairobi.
Yes.
You now have a degree in pharmacy.
Yes.
Now you've gotten into the internship. I know not most, but a lot of our viewers are campus students. So tell us, how easy was it to get into the job market, internship?
Well, as you hear, there were only 25 of us.
Yeah. Wow.
Graduating at the same time.
Oh, all of you managed to graduate?
Well, there may have been 2 or 3
that dropped.
But there were also other 2 or 3 who joined us.
Okay.
Along the way.
Okay.
I think my graduating class was 27.
Oh.
So immediately you get posted, even before immediately you see your results. The next thing you'll add in Afia House.
Hey.
And you get your posting letter.
You don't know how to apply. This is CV as Jato.
So
wow, okay.
The only thing is that we of course there are forms to complete and a request where you want to be posted. They didn't always follow your request. But by and large, because the demand was much higher than the supply. So many of us were able to get where we wanted. So for me, I did my internship at Kenyatta National Hospital. And also we had to do 6 months in hospital, 3 months in industry, and 3 months in a community pharmacy. So I was in Kenyatta National Hospital. I did my other internship at Dawa Pharmaceutical company in manufacturing in Ruaraka. Then it was very, very vibrant. And one of the biggest pharmacies that was there then, called E.T. Mox and Company, which no longer is very much in pharmacy business. I ended up in Corner House, what we call Corner House today, next to Hilton. That building was new. So I was among the first people to be there. So I got posted and I did my internship.
So that's 1 year. When you combine 6,
1
7,
year.
and 3. Okay.
And that is when I came to Kahawa West. During my internship. In the course of my internship, I got married.
Hey.
In the course of my internship. In fact,
marriage. See,
4
dating.
months.
Not dating.
4 months. Because I had met a girl when I was in high school.
Okay.
Yes. I had met a girl who was a leader of Christian Union in Loreto Girls in Lemuru. Alliance High School and Loreto Girls, we had a special relationship.
Clearly.
That's cool. That's a very special relationship.
So in the course of our Christian Union interactions,
the meetings,
and she was the chair of the Christian Union in Loreto, and my friend, who remains my friend today and was my best man, was the chairman of the Christian Union at Alliance Girls. So the chair, as they are meeting, I met the girl who I later now married, and we were in university together.
Okay. She also was admitted too.
While I was in medical school, she was in main campus doing Bachelor of Commerce in business administration. In fact, she was a leader of the Christian Union by first year in university. So by the time I'm completing, we are mature enough.
Yeah, you've dated I don't know if people call it dating at the time, but you've known each other for a while.
Oh yes,
it
was close to 7 years.
Wow.
We were friends for 7 years. Why? Because after we left A level, there was the attempted coup in Kenya.
That was in
1982. I left in 1981. Then 82, I'm supposed to join university in September. I have my letter. And then in August, there's an attempted coup. So the universities, and the university students were involved.
Yeah.
So the university was closed.
So that
and for 2 years, there was no university. Nobody going to university.
What?
Yes. So we were in the village. I was in the village for 3 years. By God's grace, that time I was born again and very active. I was the youth chair. I was involved a lot in evangelism. We had open airs. We did a lot of mission work. In fact, by the time I was going to university, the elders of the church called me. And they proposed to me that if I could accept to go to Bible school, to become a mchungaji. This time I have my letter.
Yeah. Umeitwa kufanya pharmacy. Wanakuambia uende Bible school.
Yes. And it was a very interesting conversation and very, very wonderful elders in my village. But that was because we stayed there and we did a lot of ministry. And I saw a gifting, which I didn't see. And I remember I told them, let me pray. But to be honest, I didn't pray. I was just polite. Let me pray about it. After some time, they called me. And I told them, I'm still praying. I'm still praying.
I'm still praying about it.
I look back and I wonder whether I lied. I don't know. I didn't pray. But I was waiting.
It's not something you were considering at
I
the
was
time.
not considering at the time. So because we overstayed, I was also a teacher. I had a job as a teacher in Kaharo Secondary School.
So other schools, only university wasn't happening. But high school, primary school was still going
on.
Okay.
It was still the only university.
It was the only university, and it is the students In fact, the leader of the students, Ochuka, was one of the people who was hanged. You know, the students, of course, just like today when there is oppression, the students, the young people feel it more.
Yeah, true.
And they are the ones with the energy. So the students were involved in wanting change. So the university was closed. So I was a teacher. I thank God for that opportunity, because the 3 years, even today, there are people who call me teacher. I worked very hard. I remember in a week you would take 40 lessons as maximum. I remember for the longest, I was allocated 32. But some teachers who are now growing older, I would find them in the staff room when I finished my class. And then I would wake somebody up. They are dosing. And then they would tell me, Mwalimu, do you have something to teach?
So you take up that lesson?
Oh, yes. And I was very happy.
Oh, wow.
So I was able to, I taught mathematics, I taught chemistry, I taught biology. And I'm very, very happy that some of my students became engineers.
Wow.
They call me teacher even to today. So because of that, we delayed entering the university. And once we were in the university also, there was also another strike that caused us to stay home a little. So from the time I got to know my current wife, who was my girlfriend, to the time now we are finishing and we are getting married, 7 years.
Wow.
We are friends.
Okay.
Yes. And I tell young people today,
yes,
those who want to get married, it is very, very important. It is very important to marry your friend.
Yeah.
To marry your friend. And marrying your friend means that there's a writer who has written a book. It's called Mary and Walter Tobis. I married a girl. I loved a girl. And he says that unless you have wintered and summered together, do not get married. So for me, I knew my wife for 7 years. So now when I'm working, she's working. So tunagojea nini?
Tufunge pingu za maisha.
I'm curious, Daktari.
Yes.
Is university when imefungwa, most people your age, I think they used to talk about Makerere. You know, point people used to go to Uganda.
By the time we were now doing A level, the East African community had broken down. When I was doing Form 4, EAC, and there was EASCE. You could go to Makerere, you could go to Dar es Salaam. The School of Law was in Dar es Salaam. Medicine was in Makerere and other courses. The University of Nairobi School of Medicine, which was, for example, the School of Pharmacy, started in 1974. So the first cohort graduated in 1978. And I graduated 10 years later. So you can see I'm among the pioneers. So by the time now we are doing our A level, the East African community is broken. So kila nchi jipange.
Teach your own students.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now you finished your internship at
Kenyatta.
No, not Kenyatta. The third one was, you said that company.
It's part of the whole year. You have six months in hospital.
Yes.
3 months in community pharmacy.
In industry.
And 3 months in industry.
Okay.
After that, you sit for an exam for registration. Yes. It's called forensic pharmacy. You now sit for that, and you are then, when you pass, you get now registered. You are now a qualified pharmacist. You can practice. Okay. So you needed that to complete your internship to be fully qualified.
Okay.
And it's the same for medicine. It's the same for dental surgery. You need to complete to be fully qualified. Because when you leave college, you only have book knowledge. So you need, and medicine is actually a practical, it's a social science, if you may. So now I am qualified, and I get an appointment by the government. That was a normal thing. Okay. So I was posted to Meru to be in charge of the Meru district then. The Meru district then is what we have as Meru County and Tharaka Nithi counties.
Okay.
So I was posted there. Imagine the first posting. And I am the head of the pharmaceutical services of the entire district. So I went, but in the meantime, while I was here now doing it, I was in Nairobi doing internship, I was in Kenyatta, I was living at Kahawa West. And now that is when I joined Kahawa West Baptist Church. So by the time now I'm being posted, I am an active member at Kahawa West. So when the members, the leadership heard that I had been posted out to Meru, they went to pray. So I went to Meru, and my wife was working in Nairobi then with the Ministry of Public Works.
So at that time, getting a job in the government was so easy.
No, it was automatic. If you did a degree, you automatically got a job, especially if you did professional, whether it's engineering, whether it's medicine, even BCom. We all got jobs. You know, the purpose of education was designed at the time as to train people to work in the civil service. Okay. That was the purpose. The design was to, after colonialism, the design was, education was designed to train people who would take over in the civil service. So that's how, in fact, for people who did BCom and they were doing accounts, by the time the top students, by the time you are doing final year, you have been poached by the likes of PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte and Touche, the top, so that they come ahead and say, we offer you a job before you are given a job by the government. Okay. So I ended up in Meru. I was that was not my choice. In fact, my choice, I wanted to go and teach at the Kenya Medical Training College.
Okay.
Because as a pharmacist now you could teach diploma. That was my desire. My desire. In fact, my desire was to be in academia. I was very disappointed with the posting officer. And there was no reason why they could not post me there. But then why they decided to... But anyway, I was there. I worked there for about 8 months. Okay. Because by then I'm traveling to Meru, I'm coming to Nairobi. By then I already have a son. Oh. Okay. Young child. And then there was a problem, big problem. This is the time now, the Nyayo era is at its. Remember, we did not go to university because there was a coup. There's a coup. By the time there was a coup, there was disaffection. So after the coup now, there was tyranny. Tyranny is building. And the hospitals have no medicine. Wow. So you are in charge of a district, but there is no medicine.
And there's nothing.
I remember sitting in my office in Meru and looking at the store, there is nothing. The health centers are calling me. And the only answer I can give them is that hiyo hakuna, hiyo hakuna, hiyo hakuna. I asked myself, did I go to study all these pharmaceutics and pharmaceutical chemistry and pharmacology only to say hakuna? Hakuna. I felt like I was going to go mad. And so I decided to leave government.
Okay.
Fortunately, where I had done my internship in Corner House, City Monks, the manager who was there was leaving, and she recommended me, the one who trained me. So I got a job there. I became the manager of that shop, and it was a big one. And I worked there. It was a very busy pharmacy. I used to do 150 prescriptions per day.
Wow.
I would not, at some point, and I was very passionate, I didn't want any prescription to go before I have reviewed it as a pharmacist. Not like today where you walk into a pharmacy and anybody can. That is, the way I was trained is, that is the work of the pharmacist. You need to review every prescription. So I would get so tired. I would get home and just slump into the couch because I've worked all day.
Yeah.
Sometimes not even going for lunch. I remember in 1988 there was a sugar shortage in Kenya, big one. There were a few supermarkets. That time only Uchumi was there, and people were making queues. You see, all the way from KCB, there was a supermarket opposite Kenyari, Uchumi. People lining up. So I'm in Corner House to buy sugar, and you could only buy 2 kilos. Okay. So I'm in Corner House, so we are agreeing with my wife that since I'm the one in town, over lunch I go and make. One day I was in the queue there, I haven't eaten. I asked myself, what is the nutritional content of sugar?
You're questioning why you're going to buy the sugar.
I left the queue. And I came home and I told my wife, now from now on, I'm not going to take sugar. It has zero nutritional content. And so, anyway, I told her, anybody who wants sugar now must go and queue.
That's how you made the decision to not...
1988, I stopped taking sugar, and I don't take sugar in my tea since then. Because I realized I enjoy my tea.
Sugar free. Katufia.
Any katufia.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I worked in City Monks. I'm very tired. I was there for about a year. Now I felt like I needed to retire. Getting so tired. And by then now, I had matured in my thinking about my career. And I was decided that I needed to join the pharmaceutical industry. And so by God's grace, I applied and I was taken in a company called, then it was called Ron Poulenc. Ron Poulenc.
Okay.
Ron Poulenc. There is a Rhone River in Europe.
Okay.
Ron Poulenc. It's a company that was founded in France. So I was hired as the company pharmacist. I was in charge of manufacturing of medicines on contract basis in Dawa Pharmaceuticals and Glaxo factory that was on Dakar Road. Then it was Glaxo, not GlaxoSmithKline, Glaxo. All the manufacturing, global manufacturing companies you can think of, they all had manufacturing activity in Kenya then. Either directly or through what we call toll manufacturing, like now what my company, Ron Poulenc, was doing. So I was in charge of that. And I was also in charge of drug registration, registering medicines with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. And when I was there, I also developed an interest in sales and marketing. So I became a medical rep. So I was company pharmacist and also a medical sales representative.
Okay, wait. I didn't know there's, you said drug registration, medicine registration. What's that?
In Kenya, we have a regulatory body, the one that registers pharmacists as professionals. It's called the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. The other role of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board is to register, to assess and register any drug that is in the Kenyan market. It's a rigorous process. You apply for registration, you provide the necessary evidence of that medicine,
The content.
the content,
Okay.
and also evidence of research done
Oh,
to show that it is effective.
okay.
It's a whole document. So you submit this to the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. Then they have pharmacists in committees that review your data. They assess why this drug should be registered in Kenya. And then if they are satisfied, it's a process that takes a minimum of 8 months, 6 to 8 months. If they are not satisfied with something, they ask you to provide. So since I was working with a multinational, a research-based company, it was not too difficult to provide the evidence. So once they are satisfied, now they register the medicine or the drug. Then now, and only then would you be given a license to import. If you are a local manufacturer, only then would you be given a license to sell.
Oh, okay.
Their Pharmacy and Poisons Board is supposed to make sure about the safety, the efficacy. Efficacy means it's effective. And the safety of the medicine that is available in the Kenyan market. It is their responsibility. And they do that. Every country has got their own regulatory authority. So now in the industry, I was a company pharmacist. So I was the regulatory manager responsible for registering. So I would work very closely with the Pharmacy and Poisons Board.
Okay.
That's how it goes. And even today, it's how it's supposed to go. No medicine is supposed to be made available to the public before it's registered. But the board then was very active because they would also have other pharmacists who are drug inspectors. They would be sent into the field. They would go into a pharmacy, like when I was working in E.T. Mox. They would show up anytime. They would check what medicine are you storing and whether it is registered. They would check the expiry date. They would check the person who is responsible for offering this medicine to the consumer. Are they qualified? And if they are not qualified, you would have committed an offense and they would arrest you and produce you in court. And that way we were able to ensure the safety of people, consumers of medicine. Today, that function of making sure that only qualified people are running pharmacy, that only registered medicine that has been brought into Kenya through the right channels. Because even when you registered, the distributor was known. You are able to trace something we call traceability. You can trace back the medicine you have bought from you to the place you bought, to the distributor, to the manufacturer. That way, you ensure public safety. And it's the same case even when you think about crop protection, agrochemicals. It's the same. There's a crop protection board. Those days they worked. Today, question.
Yeah.
So that's how I joined Ron Poleng. And that company, which was a multinational, eventually merged. Those days we had what we call mergers and demergers of multinationals. Our company merged with another company called Hochst or Hochest, which was a German multinational. Ron Poleng was a French multinational. See, now Europe is also coming. So now they created a company called Aventis. And by God's grace, when you merge, 1 + 1 is not equal to 2. So if there is a marketing manager here and a marketing manager here, si moja ataenda. Like that. But by God's grace, I survived the merger.
Oh, wow.
And I became the head. I started off as a company pharmacist. In the process, medical rep. In the process, product manager. In the process, sales and marketing manager. By the time we were merging, I was sales and marketing manager. And I was now appointed to head the pharmaceutical business of the new entity, Aventis.
Okay.
And Aventis by then was the number 3 company in the world.
Oh.
Wow.
Then after some time, that company also now, Aventis, merged with another company called Sanofi to create Sanofi Aventis. Those were 2 French companies. Again, I survived. But by then, we divided the business into 2, the vaccines business and the pharma business. I was left with the vaccines business. And I was the head of the vaccines business for 16 years. I worked with that group from Ron Polanc, Aventis, Sanofi Aventis, finally it was Sanofi Pasteur for 24 years.
Wow.
But by the time I was living in at the end of 2012, I was the head of the vaccine business in 9 countries in East Africa. I was the regional director in charge of 9 countries. That is Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Djibouti. And I did that for 16 years. During my time now, I was able, the vaccines business was not very big in Kenya. When I took it up, and I was able to make vaccines, move from just children vaccines to travel vaccines to other endemic diseases. So in the health sector, I was very well known as a vaccine evangelist.
I've heard you mention, but umeisema tu kwa kupita, about, no, I want to ask, huku Kenya, seme mimi sasa, nataka kufungua biashara ya chemist. Ninaweza, if I hire a registered pharmacist, or okay, just how does that work?
Pharmacy practice is a professional practice, just like law. If you want to open a law firm, who is authorized to open a law firm by law?
A lawyer.
It's a lawyer. Who is authorized to open a school by law?
A teacher?
Mwalimu.
Oh.
Any school you see operating, there must be legally there must be a teacher. Certified teacher.
Okay.
If you want to open a pharmacy, you must be a pharmacist, or even if, because pharmacy now it's also a business, just like education is a business. By the way, everything is a business.
Yeah.
But some professionals like law, they don't allow anybody.
Yeah.
You can be partners as lawyers. But in the pharmaceutical world, or even in the hospital sector, as long as the pharmacist has the controlling share, then the Pharmacy and Poisons Board will license. That is the law. Because the person registered with the Pharmacy Board is the one who is recognized to be accountable for what goes on in that
Pharmacy.
Now, of course, there has been a lot of abuse.
A lot of it.
A lot of abuse. Some pharmacists, my professional colleagues, but sorry, I don't agree with them. Somebody gives their license, signs that they are in charge, but only the license hangs there. They are never there.
Yeah.
And because also now, so that way you endanger the consumers, as it were.
Yeah.
So you have other people working there, and they have no qualification. We call them quacks. But there's a license hanging there. And that person who has provided that license has breached the law. And it is the role of the Pharmacy and Poisons Board to supervise and ensure public safety. So really, the biggest failure is on the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. They are supposed to make sure that you don't have that kind of thing. So the answer to your question, for you to open a pharmacy, you need to be a pharmacist, or you have controlling share, and you are
present.
Even if you are not the only one offering the work, you are responsible. You are responsible and accountable. So you are supervising. So you are supposed to be what we call superintendent pharmacist. Yes, that is the law.
I think I can't remember when it was. I saw on the news that I think it's the Pharmacy and Poisons Board doing an inspection for pharmacists, and a lot of them zilipatikana too. The license is there, the owner is not present, or the person who is selling is not even aware of what they are selling. And that's what you're talking about. There's a lot of faults that is going on.
Yes, there's a lot of quackery. Quackery.
A lot of quacks.
And what is the danger in that? One, there's misuse of medicine.
Yeah,
misuse.
Kwanza they're over the
And
counter.
now when that misuse happens, especially with antibiotics, what happens, because there is no proper use of these medicines, now we have what we call multi-resistant strains. The germs, whether they are viruses or bacteria, especially bacteria, because the medicines, the antibiotics have not been dispensed and used properly, these microbes are able to learn how to survive and develop resistance. So we have lost very useful drugs which could be effective, but they are no longer effective because of this misuse. And we fear that especially there are some very dangerous strains that are affecting people, and now there may be no medicine to deal with them. In developed countries where they have kept their ethics, you know, you can't go to South Africa and walk into a pharmacy and buy any medicine, or in US or in UK or in Australia or anywhere. But in Africa, unfortunately, because of these poor practices, and it's I think it cuts across, unfortunately, in our African, I don't know whether it is culture or it is practice or what. Because even driving on the road, people cut corners. There is a problem, and instead of people queuing,
they want to overtake.
So in the end, you end up clogging the whole system. It's the same thing, the same problem we have in the medical world, where we have people who are interested in business. They are opening pharmacies, some of them assisted by pharmacists who are also not good professionals. And in the process, as a nation, as a continent of Africa, sometimes we are losing patients that we ought not to lose. Because on top of the unqualified people, we also have medicines that have not gone through proper registration. So we have a lot of counterfeits, counterfeit medicine.
That what was to actually be my next question. Has there been such a case in our country?
We have, unfortunately, the problem of counterfeit medicine is very big.
Especially the imported ones. Now they're manufactured.
You know, there are sometimes people who will, some of the places like India, for example, and other places, some people who are doing business, sometimes they will bring in contraband medicine that is probably expired or not properly manufactured. Others will manufacture just like the same way we are manufacturing even paints, but not doing the right job. It's the same thing that has infiltrated the market. So that, for me, my advice to any patient who wants to be sure about the medicine they are taking, you need to know, where do you buy your medicine? Is there a pharmacist? Because if there is a pharmacist, a proper pharmacist, either a degree holder or a diploma holder from the Kenya Medical Training College in that pharmacy, then you're likely, and if they are careful, where they buy medicine, because there's also a bit of hawking. People going around from pharmacy to pharmacy selling. That is illegal. You are supposed, by law, the Pharmacy and Poisons Act requires you, if you are running a pharmacy, you are supposed to buy your medicine from an authorized source, who also has brought from an authorized source. That way, you can guarantee, and the medicine is supposed to be registered. So, people who are in pharmacists who are running pharmacy business and they are pharmacists, they know that. That is some care you can take to protect yourself and to make sure that you are consuming the right kind of medicine. Yes.
Because see ngumu uende chemist, then utishe dawa, then they'd ask you generic or original. And authorized. The West kwanza. No, it's an authorized chemist, but they'll ask you generic ama unaulizwa ya 50 baba ya 100.
So ya 100
tunaitisha tu ya 100 kitu kiwa mbaya.
Wow.
Is it authorized? Maybe not. It looks like because your pharmacy
maybe,
is open, or maybe there is a license hanging there, and if you look at it, it may even be
Baba ni akanjwa tu.
A river road. All
That's
those,
what they do.
all those kind of things. Unfortunately, probably 80% of the chemists you see are not properly registered. Yes.
Wow.
They are operating, they are offering these medicines. It's a huge problem. So really, the regulatory authority, I am a pharmacist, I'm a member of the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya. By the way, the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya is the one that brings the profession of pharmacists, and I became a member after I was registered, and I served as the national treasurer for 10 years. I was also the editor-in-chief of the Pharmaceutical Journal of Kenya. So when I talk about these things, they are things that we have investigated and written about. So the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya brings the pharmacists together, registered through the Pharmacy and Poisons Board. But also the Pharmaceutical Society of Kenya is supposed to be the voice of the profession to the community. And some of the issues, malpractices that are going on, they can point them out so that the Pharmacy and Poisons Board can take action. But this is our country. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Sasa hawa watu wa herbal, where do they stand in this?
Now,
these herbal clinics.
Medicine is a very broad area. When you study pharmacy, one of the subjects you study is pharmacognosy. And pharmacognosy is the science of identifying natural sources of plants and other natural occurring living things that may have medicinal value. And a lot of the medicines we have in the market are derived from natural sources. For example, the current most active anti-malaria. Today, if you need an anti-malaria, we use it's a triple combination. Is ACT. A stands for artemisinin. This is a plant. It's a herbal plant that was first discovered in China. It's called Artemisia annua or wormwood. This is the source of anti-malaria that we are using today. Before the artemisinin derivatives, because these are the ones we are using today, we had quinine. Quinine was derived from the bark of a tree called cinchona tree. That's a natural source that was used for years. We have many medicinal plants, and we are able to identify this medicinal plant Now, the role of a pharmacist and modern medicine now is to not only know this plant has medicinal value, we want to go further and find out what in it is the medicine.
Okay.
Then we extract that. Then we formulate it into a dosage form, whether a tablet, a syrup, an injection. All these are dosage forms that are easy to use so that you can transport them, you can carry. But now, when we come to herbal medicine, it is the same science. From natural sources, from history, people know this plant. If you take it, you have malaria, it will cure you.
Yeah.
So the herbalist will now use that and formulate it into the dosage form. The only issue is that you may require a very big bottle.
Yeah.
Or they can dry them into leaves, which you can use as tea. So herbal medicine is good to the extent that some of the knowledge has been passed from generation to generation.
Yeah.
And what we encourage the herbal medicine people, because they have the knowledge of the plants that work. In Kenya Medical Research Institute, we have a unit where they do research on herbal medicine. If they will know this is used, then they will go further and now analyze and try and simplify, extract the active part. Because when we give the whole, you need a lot. And then in there could also be some harmful substances. But so we are able to check the safety, simplify the dose. So there is no conflict between herbal medicine and more what we now call Western medicine.
Okay.
It's Western medicine.
Yes.
Because if you go east to the Chinese, you will find that they use a lot of natural products.
Okay.
The Chinese medicine. The Western medicine is the one that has advanced to simpler and simpler dosage form. And science is such that, I'm sitting here in this studio. Long ago, we would have needed to have cameras which are different. So science is such that, and that is why we train people so that we can not only discover what is the active ingredient, but also be able to formulate it in a simple dosage form. Imagine you are traveling on air to America. And and the Pharmacy and Poisons Board now also has capacity to register herbal medicine, and that is the best way, because then it's doing its work. So initially it is listing. They get listed. The standard of registration is a little bit lower than the Western medicine, because the Western medicine is really refined. So that's why we call Pharmacy and Poisons Board. Pharmacy and Poisons means that this medicine is good, but it can also be poison if it is not used properly. So there is a role for herbal medicine, and we encourage our herbalists, one, to try and pass that knowledge. But some people are keeping with it, and then they die with it. Do they help progress the science? No. And then also you can submit your samples for analysis, and you can work with even the University of Nairobi has a drug analysis research unit. DARU, Kenya Medical Research Institute has a herbal medicine place. And if you are one of the herbalists and you work with them, it is really to enrich your ability to work with the tool that you're using. Yes.
I think it's really awesome that he has been able to demystify the conflict between herbal and modern medicine. To date, there are people who say that modern medicine is harmful. Little did they know that it's actually, some are actually derived from herbs. Wow.
Quinine.
Wow.
Quinine.
Wow, unaimagine kubeba a back of a tree juu unataka kuponya malaria na mwarubaine umeiweka kwa mtungi ya 20 liters uko
Unatokea
nayo
kwa forest.
kwa ndege
na roots.
Unazichana tu. No, we thank God for modern medicine. You mentioned about vaccines.
Yes.
You talked about your stepmother losing so many kids because of lack of this vaccine. And then years later, we see you are now in a company that is dealing with vaccines.
Yes.
Now, vaccines ziliingia Kenya lini?
Vaccines in the last 100 years, vaccines are the most important innovation that has come to the medical world in terms of management of diseases. It is only second to clean drinking water. If you want to impact a community on health, any community in the world, the first thing you would need to introduce is clean drinking water. That water itself, you saw during COVID, the way we were teaching people how to wash.
Yeah.
Long ago, when we didn't have clean drinking water, there were so many diseases, including diarrhea. Diarrhea today is not a big issue as it was, especially in children under 5. The number 2 invention is vaccines. That's the number 2. And everybody agrees on that, even more than the discovery of antibiotics. Now, the vaccines in Kenya, because your question is in Kenya, initially the antibiotics came around early the last century, in the 1930s. That's when, in the turn of the century, 1900, 1908, the penicillins began to come around. And then the first vaccine is the vaccine we still give for TB called BCG. Which keeps on getting out of stock. Now, that BCG was discovered around 1933.
Okay.
BCG, it is Bacillus calmette-guillemette. It's called BCG.
I could not remember that.
Bacillus calmette-guillemette. It was the first vaccine against TB. By the way, today I can say it's not a very good vaccine.
Oh.
In that we need a better TB vaccine.
It's no longer
if it was evaluated in the current way we evaluate vaccine, it would not succeed. But we have kept it because it prevents the most serious forms of TB, which we call TB meningitis. Meningitis, and also what we call miliary or disseminated TB in the blood. But you remember when the HIV and AIDS came, TB erupted. So how can you have an epidemic of TB when HIV came? So which means that we need a better vaccine. So it was among the first. In Kenya, wide use of vaccines came around the 70s. This was during what we had a disease called smallpox.
Yes.
Which was a highly infectious disease. It's one of the diseases that used to kill children, adults, and this disease, until they found a vaccine, this was discovered by a guy called Edward Jenner in 1866. But purely gained a lot of momentum to the turn of the century. So we had now what we call expanded program on immunization. We used the smallpox vaccine to vaccinate children the way we are seeing us doing campaigns against polio.
Yeah.
When I was in primary school in the 70s, there were campaigns for smallpox. So you are injected in school all schools. We got our vaccine against smallpox. And because of that global campaign, the last case of smallpox was seen in the whole world in 1977.
Oh, wow.
Last case. It was in Madeira, at the border point between Kenya and Somalia in Madeira. In a Somali boy. That's the last case. 1977. Thanks to the vaccination campaign, in 1980, the World Health Organization declared the world free of smallpox.
Wow.
So today, we do not vaccinate against smallpox. So that success led the World Health Organization to create a program called Expanded Program on Immunization, EPI, that now expanded from smallpox to polio. Now polio, measles, tetanus, whooping cough, it's called pertussis, diphtheria, and tetanus. And now in the 70s, these 6 were offered to all children in Kenya. And for many years, there were the 6. And like measles is the one that killed many of the children my stepmother born, and many it used to kill children. Tetanus was neonatal tetanus. When a child is born, the way you sever the umbilical cord, if you don't, many children were born at home under the traditional birth attendant, and sometimes the way they sever the umbilical cord, the child gets infected, you get neonatal tetanus. It was a major issue. So those diseases, we have now really brought them under control. To the extent that we are now in the final phase of polio eradication. In fact, by now I thought we'd have eliminated the polio. But unfortunately, because of conflicts, South Sudan, there's war, Afghanistan, there's war, and then some people, northern Nigeria, some people say we don't want this vaccine. So we should not be where we are with polio. We should be saying now we are in the final phase of polio eradication. When I was in primary school, my generation, we all had classmates who had polio. Wow. We all had classmates who had polio. The generation of our children, they have not seen polio.
I don't think I've ever seen someone with polio. Unless in photos on TV.
But at real?
No, I haven't.
You have. I'll tell you.
Offline.
Somebody who got polio. They are old now.
Okay.
You have. I'll tell you.
Okay.
If you see somebody whose limbs are not straight, they are walking like this. Most likely those are polio survivors. Because on top of killing people, those who survived will be left with permanent damage, including of limbs and hearts and all that. But there are times. So then now, when I joined the industry myself, the pharma industry, especially in vaccination of children, there were the 6. And I was privileged to be working with a company that was the number 1 vaccine company in the world. And we introduced other vaccines. For example, we introduced a vaccine called Hib. Haemophilus influenza type B is the major cause of pneumonia in children under 5, and especially under 1. Haemophilus influenza type B. I launched that back in 1994 in Kenya. And it joined the expanded program on immunization somewhere around 2001. It's now given to all kids in Kenya. I launched a vaccine called hepatitis B. Vaccine against liver cancer. 80% of liver cancer is due to hepatitis B vaccine. I launched that in Kenya, and it is now given to all children. I launched we launched vaccines like yellow fever, vaccine, which you need to travel. We launched a vaccine against typhoid. Yes, there's a vaccine against typhoid. It protects for 3 years. We launched a vaccine against meningococcal meningitis. Meningococcal meningitis, we actually have 2 kinds of vaccine. There's one that is given in the setting of outbreaks, meningococcal A plus C. And then there's another one now which we recommend to children as they get to 10 months. Because meningococcal meningitis is a severely debilitating disease, even if a child survives. And we tend to find it a lot, outbreaks a lot in dormitory settings, in adolescents. But we have a vaccine called meningococcal ACYW, which is given at 10 months. A child can get at 10 months and then a second dose after 1 year. I launched a vaccine against hepatitis A. I launched a vaccine against chicken pox. Here in Kenya, I was the first to launch that vaccine with the company I was working for. Today, kids who go to clinics, they get a wider range of vaccines. From 6, I think we should now be 12, because there's a vaccine against diarrhea, rotavirus vaccine, which should be given to kids before they achieve the age of 6 months. There is a vaccine against, we call it pentavalent. Now the diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, they are now 6. So we call it, 5, pentavalent. And in the private sector, you can have it as a hexavalent. Because there's sometimes, because those who are able to afford, they can get what we call a more improved vaccines in the private sector, because the pertussis, the whooping cough part, which was there originally, is a whole cell. And when children get this vaccine, it's very good. But some of the children will have what we call crying syndrome. You see children crying after vaccination.
Oh, it's an effect.
Sometimes is the effect of that. So we have improved it. We have what we call acellular pertussis, which is just removing the part, and that vaccine is also available. So you hear in hospitals when you take your kids to private pediatricians, because I worked a lot with private pediatricians, I coined, I'm proud but not boastful, a word you will hear being used, what we call baby-friendly vaccines.
I think I've heard that.
Baby-friendly vaccines. Because we found it very difficult to get people to be willing to pay for vaccines when they are provided free through the
public sector.
Not only the public sector, even private centers, you can access these vaccines. So why would a mother or a parent be willing to pay? Then there must be something more. And that's where we brought in the acellular pertussis, which when the children get, they don't cry. Those crying that goes on sometime. It is in a few kids, but that kid could be yours. And it could be traumatizing. So we found that we worked together with pediatricians, and I coined the word baby-friendly vaccines, which is now being used quite a lot. And it was a way of helping people to understand, why should I pay? And then you tell you'll get the benefit. Your child, once you go home, they will not experience the adverse events like crying. And you as a mother, you can sleep.
That's
and wake up and go to work.
It's a good hook. It's a good hook.
Yes. So now we have not only the children vaccine, we also have travel vaccines. Travel vaccines, if you are traveling, not just yellow fever. Now some destinations you need certain vaccines like polio. Some destinations you need polio. We don't give adults the oral polio, we give the injectable polio. So we have injectable polio vaccine, but you combine it with diphtheria. But now diphtheria is one of the things in children, in all medicine, children get a lower dose. But when we come to diphtheria, adults get a low dose.
Oh, lower than the kids?
Yes, if you give the adult the diphtheria, which is the children who tolerate, they will get into serious problems. So we have those kind of travel vaccines that, if you're migrating to Australia or you are going to US, there are certain vaccines that they will ask you to have. So we also now have travel vaccines. Then we have adult vaccines where you take them because you are exposed to certain diseases like typhoid. Like hepatitis A, although we like to give it in children. Again, if you grow up in Mathare Valley and poor conditions, even in some rural areas where you don't have access to clean drinking water, as a child, you get exposed to hepatitis A virus early. And even if you suffer, it's very mild. And you develop lifelong immunity. But now, if you grow up in a middle class setting, where you have tap water, clean, so you grow up, then you don't get to meet this virus. Now we started seeing now in Kenya, you can see kids or children in high school, even university. I remember there's a time here in Juja, JKUAT students living there, coming with red eyes, Now, hepatitis A, you are catching it when you are a little older, right?
Yeah.
You tend to have more severe symptoms. So now, for children who are growing up in middle class, they need to give your children a hepatitis A vaccine so that they get this immunity early, so that you don't get the problem when they are older. So all that is what I was doing. And even today, I'm very passionate about vaccines, because vaccines save lives. Vaccine saves lives. Number one, vaccines are the most cost-effective way of managing disease. Any disease where there is a vaccine, you are good. And that's why when COVID came, or any disease, the thing that you are thinking about is, when do we get a vaccine? We have been looking for a HIV vaccine ever since. The day we'll find one, it will be a good thing. We've been looking for a malaria vaccine. Now there is a malaria vaccine that is being given in places where malaria is highly endemic. It is reasonably effective. We could make it better. But the day we'll have a very effective vaccine against malaria, we will be good. So anytime you hear there is a new disease, the first thing to think about,
The vaccine.
when are we getting the vaccine?
Okay. I have a question about, before it disappears. Would you say that, you said Kitambo children or infants used to get 6?
Yes.
And now they're 12.
Yes.
Would you say that anyone who didn't get the 12th vaccine are at a risk of contracting the many diseases that you are now vaccinating against?
Now, when I say they are 12, those are the ones that are made available free of charge through the public health system. Any mother who can, I talk about mother, not father.
Very key.
Because I find that, and this is research, shows that the major decision maker when it comes to children health is the mother.
Yeah.
It's the major decision maker. If you ask many fathers what vaccines their children have received,
Wanapelekananga to clinic.
so any mother who is able to afford, there are a range of vaccines available. Now, if you did not get those, and now you are an adult, does it mean that you could be given? Yes and no. Some diseases are for childhood. For example, Haemophilus influenza type B. We don't see it in children above 5 years.
Okay.
All right? Diarrhea due to rotavirus. We will not give a child above 6 months. We will see the disease even at under 2 years or even under 5, but the vaccine must be given before 6 months. After 6 months, you will have serious side effects, which you don't want to touch. So the kids should be given before 6 months. Then they are protected. Adults don't need rota vaccine. So there are those diseases that are childhood diseases. Because why? The reason being that even if you are not vaccinated, like many people are not vaccinated before the era of vaccines, what happened? You encountered the virus or the germ. If it killed you, you died.
Yeah.
If
it did, you acquired lifelong immunity. All right? So that by the time now you are an adult, except for some diseases, for example, like hepatitis B. Hepatitis B, which is the number 1 cause of liver cancer. Anyone who has, the vaccine was introduced in 2001 in the program. Of course, the vaccine was available longer, especially in the private sector. But 2001 is the year when it was introduced. So if you are born before 2001 and you did not receive hepatitis B vaccine and you are not married, or you not just married, or you whichever age that you are, it is good to get that vaccine because you could catch it. The transmission of hepatitis B is through body fluids from an infected person to an immune person. Body fluids, you can exchange them through sexual activity. You can exchange them through when a child is being born, when the cord is being severed. You can also encounter it, for example, in sports, people I wear his t-shirt and it has sweat. It can be when you are living together in the house. A child can easily pick a toothbrush of an adult and use it. And maybe the adult
has hepatitis B.
Had hepatitis B. It could be drug users, unsafe injections, what we call unsafe injections. So the method of transmission is mainly horizontal. It could also be vertical. So anyone who was born before 2001 and they have not received the hepatitis B vaccine, they should receive. Now, like when we take people for dialysis in any hospital, we want to check the hepatitis B status. We want to know either you are vaccinated. We want to check, because if you use a machine, a dialysis machine, and heaven forbid you are a carrier of the hepatitis B virus, and 7 to 8% of Kenyans are carriers, then somebody else uses that machine, they may be infected. So we want to make sure, so we separate the machines to be used. But I always tell my healthcare colleagues, you can do better. You can do better, because this person who is free of hepatitis B service antigen, so now they are clean, so they can use the machine. Tomorrow they can get infected. If you fight them free, the best thing is, after you do your dialysis and they are okay, vaccinate them. Because that way then, it's a simple logic, which sometimes we sometimes common sense is not always common. I worked a lot with Kenya, the kidney specialist in Kenya, to introduce protocols in hospitals, in people going through dialysis, to introduce those protocols, to be able to say this person is not infected, and they are the majority, because I said 7 to 8%. So you can imagine 92% are okay, but they are okay today. Tomorrow they can be infected. So why not protect them? Yes, at that point.
Okay. Kabla tutoke hapo, you've mentioned, there's some countries where you need a polio and yellow fever certificates. So right now, if I want to go there, I have to get polio again. Or how will I get the certificate?
No.
Iko kuna ile kadi yako ya kuzaliwa.
Kadi ndo nashangaa.
Inakuanga.
Yes, that card is important. It is the one that shows what you received. If you don't have a card, we'll vaccinate you. It doesn't do you any harm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It may not do you any good. If you are immune, it will not do you any harm. But if you produce your road to health card, the physician will write it in your travel card.
Okay.
Yes.
You've said that there are some vaccines that are available in the public sector, which are free.
Yes.
And there are some that are in the private that you pay. Why is there a contrast in that?
Now, the vaccines which are free, they are free for every Kenyan. So even if you go to a private hospital, they have
for the children.
They can access, yes. Okay. They can access, including a vaccine called HPV vaccine, human papillomavirus vaccine, which prevents against cervical cancer. It's available. Yeah. Free. If you want it free. So the private hospitals are able to access and then offer it. Maybe they would charge what we call a user fee, because that nurse who is injecting you in the private hospital, they are not paid by the government. Yeah. If I've employed them, so I can charge you a small user fee. Okay. But they are completely free. But there are vaccines similar, but now improved. Safety, like what I'm calling baby friendly. Those are not available in the public sector, but they have their equivalent in the public sector, which is okay. Majority of people cannot afford the baby friendly. But you who is spending a lot of money buying toys and buying airtime, or you can afford a little comfort for your child. And maybe for especially working moms, because remember we go back to work after 3-4 months. Working moms, you want your child asleep and you're also asleep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. 2019, towards the end, that is when COVID was first reported in China. Was it China? Yes, I think.
Yes.
It was China.
Yes.
And as Africa, yes. As Africans or as a Kenyan, I saw the news and I was like, hii ni ugonjwa ya watu wa nje. And then 2020 happened, first case in March in the country. And then it took a while for the vaccine to get to the country or even to be discovered. Tukaanza kusikia rumors. Till to date, there are people who say, watu tulipata
microchip.
Tutageuka kuwa zombies in 2030. And I know there's a lot of information that is not out there about the vaccine. We heard of so many. There was the AstraZeneca, there was the Johnson & Johnson. Why is there a difference between those vaccines? Is it the company? No, it's the company. Yeah. Or is it the content of the vaccine that brought out the difference? Because kuna mwenye ana prefer AstraZeneca, kuna mwenye ana prefer Johnson & Johnson. Tell people that we are not going to become zombies. They're saying 2030. Or sijui tumekwa microchip so that the US or sijui the Russians can micromanage us and see whatever we are doing. Can you talk to us about COVID-19? Because there's still a lot of information that is not out there.
So COVID-19, this is coronavirus. The word COVID means coronavirus disease. Coronavirus disease, COVID.
Yes.
19, it came out, the first case was in December 2019 in Wuhan, in China.
Yeah.
And then here in Kenya by March 15th of 2020, all schools were closed in Kenya because we had found cases. And the outbreak of this, it was declared a pandemic in March 2020. For you to declare a disease a pandemic, it means that the disease has spread from its primary source to several continents.
Oh.
That's what you call a pandemic. So if a disease comes out of here today in Nairobi, what people should do is to try and contain it in Nairobi. If it then spreads from Nairobi, Kenya to Somalia to wherever, to Africa, it is still a disease of international concern because now it has gone to several countries, international, but it needs to spread to several continents for it to be declared a pandemic. So if you trace back from Wuhan, US, Europe, so it was declared a pandemic. And the origin is still something under investigation up to today. We don't know the origin. We don't have hard evidence. There was some reasonable suspicion that it may have crossed from one species to humans. So a virus that crosses from across a species, we call it a zoonotic disease. So anyway, we don't know the origin, but we know that kind of coronavirus is found in bats. BATS, bats. So how it crossed from bats to humans through an intermediary animal that was probably being bought in wet market in China, in Wuhan, where you buy for eating, so that then it was able to reach. That is still under investigation. There are some people who are saying, because there is a laboratory in Wuhan that does research on corona, could it have been a laboratory accident? You know, it's a level 5 laboratory. That means high safety, level 5. So we don't know the origin. And you remember, immediately there was a need to find a vaccine. Also to find a way of treating, therapeutics. So the research was on three areas. One, diagnostic. How do you get to diagnose? And that we were able to sort out very quickly. To find a way of knowing how to test it and diagnose. And that was achieved very, very quickly because this was not the first time we were experiencing a coronavirus. In 2003, there was an outbreak of a coronavirus which spread and it killed a number of people, 773.
Wow. From
China again. And that disease was called SARS. Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, which we now called SARS-CoV-1. Then, somewhere in 2012, there was another outbreak of a coronavirus called MERS, MERS, Middle East Respiratory Syndrome. It was found in Middle East, contained very, very quickly. Yeah. Then now, the SARS. So by the time now, 2003 SARS, we were over with it. We were able to characterize it, to know what is the antigen. The antigen is the part of the virus that is able to cause disease. It means we say it is pathogenic. And then that part, if you are able to develop immunity against it, then you have a vaccine. So through the SARS experience in 2003, through the MERS experience in 2012, we already knew the character of this COVID. So when this SARS-CoV-2, we call it SARS-CoV-2, the COVID-19, we call it SARS-CoV-2. Very quickly we were able to characterize and see, it's the same antigen, just a little modification. We already had developed a kind of a vaccine in research, but because the SARS disappeared, there was no need to continue. So that is how we were able to develop a vaccine very quickly, because we already had some knowledge 20 years before.
Okay.
For you to discover a vaccine, it takes not less than 10 to 20 years. How were we able? We have not been able to find a vaccine against HIV or malaria by then. How are we able to find quickly a vaccine against
COVID.
SARS-CoV-2? It's because we had the experience in 2003.
Okay.
And therefore, we knew how to, in a couple of weeks, we already were able to develop the laboratory chemical that you need to test. And it was distributed very quickly to all the countries in the world. And we had the capacity to test and know that you have COVID or you don't have COVID. So that is diagnostic. The next one is therapeutics. Therapeutics is to find a medicine to treat. So that we had so many stories. Some people are saying ivermectin. Some people are saying, many drugs were tried.
Azithromycin ilitumika vibaya.
Many drugs were tried.
Yeah.
In terms of therapeutics, we have something, but we don't have what we call a good drug to treat COVID, even up to today. Research is still going on. But very quickly we were able to, because we know the antigen, which is the spike proteins. So the issue is, how do we formulate this into a dosage form? We know we know what it is. It is a spike protein. How do we now formulate this into a dosage form that you can give? How do we grow this commercially? So that is where now the difference comes. Which method can you use? These are viruses. Viruses only grow on cells, very specific cells. That is the character of viruses. For example, hepatitis B virus cannot grow on any other cell except the liver cell. All right? So we need a particular cell which we can propagate in the laboratory and inject this and grow into commercial level and then harvest. That's where the pharmacists come in, then harvest it and now formulate it. The method of formulating is what distinguishes the vaccine. There's one where you use a carrier protein. You use a carrier protein. Proteins are large in terms of molecular weight, molecular biology. You can use a carrier protein to deliver the vaccine, to deliver the antigen as a vaccine. And that is what some companies used. Or you can use a messenger RNA, mRNA. mRNA is not from the nucleus. If you draw a cell, you have the nucleus where we have the DNA.
Yeah.
On the side, we have other organelles inside. So that's where the protein synthesis takes place, messenger RNA. That's what Pfizer and others use. So the difference is the carrier, how the carrier, the method you use to carry, whether you are using a carrier protein or you're using a messenger RNA.
Okay.
And let me tell you, vaccines and drugs, because vaccines are given to healthy people and drugs are given to sick people. When you are sick, you can accept anything. You can even accept a bitter pill against malaria. Correct?
Yes.
But when you are healthy, you know, so therefore, when it comes to safety, we have a higher level of safety requirement in vaccines than with drugs. Any vaccine we give, we have tested its safety and tested and confirmed. So the vaccines that were developed for COVID, number one, people need to know we started the research in 2003. We didn't start in 2019. Therefore, the knowledge we had, we only built on it and finished Quickly, we were able to do the necessary phase 2 trials, phase 3 trials, and phase 4 continues. Now, those vaccines worked. How do we know they worked? We didn't lose as many people. In 1918, we had a pandemic called the Spanish flu pandemic.
Yeah.
It killed more than 50 million people.
Spanish flu.
Worldwide.
More than, yes, more than the war. Remember there was the First World War, 14 to 18. The Spanish flu pandemic, those are the ones who are recorded. The Africans were not recorded. If you really consider, scientists say that it could be well over 100 million.
What?
But recorded is over 50 million people died. During the COVID, how many died?
Our country wasn't.
Very few.
Yeah, very few.
If you consider it.
Yeah, comparing.
Because we were able to deploy preventive mechanisms in a multi-pronged way. We had a vaccine. We were able to find masks. We were able to institute public health measures.
Lockdown.
Now, whoever would be saying that they are waiting to develop, what did you say?
A zombie. We were told we are going to turn into zombies.
How did they get by that evidence? In medicine, we say evidence-based medicine. And you don't predict things into the future. You do research based on the past. So anybody predicting that anybody will be a zombie because they took a COVID vaccine, that one is called misinformation. That person, their intention is different. And we have quite a number of vaccine deniers around the world. We have anti-vaccination campaigners in the world. Yes, it's a movement that started in Australia. Sometimes, I think, 1993 or thereabout, whichever vaccine you produce. Even here in Kenya, we had people. We have people who...
Their work is to campaign against any vaccine.
Yes, just like my friend here, Jonas, you are an ICT guy. Besides being a communicator here. So, you go to the office to work on ICT. Somebody else goes to the office every day to manufacture a virus.
Sure.
Isn't it? A vaccine virus, a computer virus. Sidio? See, computer viruses are manufactured. And then they create what? An anti-virus, which they want you to sell. In the same way, in the field of vaccines, there are people who, for whatever reason, they are anti-vaccination campaigners. And I tell you, if we listen to them, we don't make progress. We were able to eradicate smallpox because of vaccines. We are at the verge of eradicating polio because of vaccines. Children used to die like flies because of measles. Today, less than 300,000 kids die of measles. And those who die is because there is some carelessness by their parents or their government to not provide
the vaccines.
So, we have been able to manage and control diseases thanks to vaccines. And we know that vaccines are safe. So nobody should be telling you to expect anything. What you should expect is that you did not suffer from COVID. What we should be checking now is those who are vaccinated. Are you still protected? What level of immunity do you have? This virus also is changing. We are still monitoring it. If we have a very severe form, then we'll ask you to be vaccinated against the new strain. Thank God, because many of us were either vaccinated or we suffered from the disease, but it did not kill us. We didn't even feel it. Especially in Africa. We suffered. We didn't. Africans, by the way, are very resilient when it comes to diseases. Then, even a new strain, it may affect us kidogo, and then we are able to mount an immune response.
Wow, I think that is...
class.
Nakwambia nafilika naweza kuwa daktari sasa, but now I'll have to go to school for that. That's a lot of
Usifungue chemist. Quack.
Nisikwe quack.
Eh.
But that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
And I think that's an amazing way to start off the year. That's a beautiful episode. Thank you so much, Daktari, for being here with us. Like, I mean, I know we've not even gotten to so many things about your job. About your job.
Even the title Daktari.
The title Daktari, we've not even gotten into it, but I know, and as the team, we know we are going to have you here again. So thank you so much for giving us your time. Thank you for sharing with us the information. And I know so many people have gotten to learn a lot. Najua huko unajua vitu zingine. And you're welcome. That is why Beyond the Pulpit exists. When you see these people ministering to you, usiulize, okay, uliza maswali ya Bible, but also know that they have a lot of other information. So yeah, thank you once again. It was an honor to have you here, and I know we are going to have you here again. Larry, I hope you've enjoyed.
I've enjoyed
a lot.
I hope you honor our next invite.
Yeah.
Well, I want to appreciate you for hosting me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, the knowledge I have is only useful if I share it.
True.
Yeah.
And what you've done is to provide a platform. It's been very enjoyable and very, it's a very nice environment.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to come when you want me to come.
Thank you.
Okay.
Umesikia. He has told you
mwenyewe.
himself from the horse's mouth. So be sure to keep up with us, follow us, subscribe. If you're watching this and you've not subscribed, umefika hadi hapa na uja subscribe, please, you're doing us a disgrace, you're doing yourself a disgrace, because we have more people like Daktari coming. Yeah, so subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, on Facebook, keep up with us, comment, like, share, especially this episode. Share it with as many people as you know, especially about the vaccines, about COVID. We need to put this information outside there. So thank you for watching episode 18. And until we meet again on episode 19, be safe, stay safe. God loves you. Bye-bye.